On air, online, on now. Pre-recorded from Vulpix Studios, it's the MCS1 show. And now your host, MCS1.
Welcome everyone to an exciting edition of the MCS1 show. I am your host, MCS1, and today we are not joined by my usual co-host, Caleb Hennon, but I do have a couple other co-hosts and old familiar faces from the MCS1 show. Welcome back to Cameron and Merlin. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, what's going on?
Oh, man, a lot to talk about today. So, back in, was it 2015? That we started seeing like our big summer of movies, like where we saw like John Wick was like the main one, November Man, and then
I got something. I think it was 15.
Yeah. So back in 2015, so nearly a decade ago, we had like a summer of movies. We saw tons of these movies, and we just started like this little segment on the MCS1 show called At the Movies, and it was mostly just a like thing for me to sit down with Cameron and Merlin, two of my closest friends, and just kind of rip about movies, talk about them, what we liked, what we didn't like. We try to keep it spoiler-free at first, and then we would mention when there were spoilers, and that's when people would usually drop off. So today we're going to be talking about At the Movies, but like the movie-going experience today, because like the MCS1 show, we stopped recording back in like 2019. And we didn't start back up until like 5 years later, which is now. And a lot's like changed, especially during the pandemic. I feel like right now, overall, we're at a point where, okay, we can talk about this. Let's talk about what's changed, what's different, how things were, how they are now, etc. type of thing. So let's just like get right into it for this At the Movies segment. So basically, movie like viewership has been declining a lot over the past couple of years, and there's so many factors for this. One that like we could kind of talk about right now as a like light factor, and we'll get into a little bit more, is streaming. And this is something that's been like a long time coming. So back when I was going to school, and for those that don't know, originally, like I went to community college for business, got an AA in that, and then I went and changed my major when I got to university to film. I eventually became so just frustrated with the film program at that university that I just switched over to project management. And I was like, I just want to graduate and get out of here. Because the film program was just quite terrible there. But I had one class that was like a forum, and I would have like a different speaker there every week. This gave the teachers an excuse to like not teach and just be lazy and be like, hey, we have a guest speaker. It was like that every week.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And so this forum, at the time I was like, this is really cool. But looking back, I'm like, this was full of bad information. It was incorrect. Just upon further reflection, which I'll get into in a second of like some of these specifics. But the speakers would range from like startups to mobile gaming companies to marketing firms. The mobile gaming company, one that came in, this is like one of the false knowledge or things that didn't age well type of thing. One of the people in that company said, and this was like over a decade ago, gosh, I would say maybe 13 years ago, they said, yeah, within like the next 5 to 10 years, mobile gaming devices like our phones are going to be as good as a computer, if not better. Like, yeah, I am still waiting for that to happen.
Yep, same.
Especially like when you think of like how big GPUs are, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times the size of phones now.
Yeah.
As well. So anyway, not to like dog on that too much. I'll complain all day about my university experience if I'm allowed to. But we also had someone came in from like a film company, and they were doing like kind of like marketing stuff too. But they would do like regular like feature length films. And one thing I heard, and this was so stupid, but they were convinced like mobile phone views were really going to take off, which they kind of did. as far as you look like a video ad experience.
Mhm.
And they were saying to shoot like vertically rather than horizontally. Like if someone's like holding their phone up, like they're doom scrolling type of thing. And that was like the big thing because mobile viewing was becoming such a huge thing back then. Now I think it's like kind of capped. I really don't think we're going to see a full movie in 9:16 resolution
No.
anytime soon. At least I hope, because that sounds terrible.
Why?
So
The only way I can see that happening is if they intend you to watch it on your phone,
well, that's
and
the thing.
then I don't want to be sitting there for 2 hours looking at my phone like that.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what my mentality was when I was thinking about this and hearing it in the class too. I'm like, this is just absurd. And then it's also, well, how can you watch it on a big screen? Like, are you going to take your TV and like tilt it or something? I don't know. I know I could take a computer monitor and I could tilt that
Right.
to watch something, but it was just like an absurd notion. But that's like back in the day, like 15 years ago, what they thought mobile was really going to turn into as far as the movie going experience.
Yeah.
At least in, middle of Utah at like a degree mill of a university. So, obviously things have changed from that. That's not going to happen. And let's talk about the movie going experience. So the pandemic hit, we all know about this. And so I found this article that like just went through basically how bad the pandemic wrecked movie theaters. This is from Hollywood Reporter, and it's actually like a report that's taken from the inaugural industry report from a theater owners group, the nonprofit known as the National Cinema Foundation. And these stats are just insane on here. And these were reported in March of 2023. And the first one here, actually, I gave these to Cam to read and go over. And he's got like 10 of like the best ones on there. But I got one that like prefaces all of these. And so from this report, the U.S. alone lost over 2,000 movie theater screens amid the pandemic. So we're not talking about just like movie theater like locations. We're talking screens. So that could be like if I go to a standard movie theater and there's about, quote, 12 screens there, that's like counted into that.
Gotcha.
So that's what they're referring to. But when you hear 2,000, like your reaction can, like, oh my gosh. But on average, like, let's just say that 2,000-ish divided by, we'll say average 12
Okay.
or 12 screens, 12 to 8 screens. We're looking at about like, if it's 12, it's 116 that have been closed. But if we did that 8 or whatever, I would say it's probably like maybe looking at about maybe 200 theaters closing. It could be a little more. It's hard to tell because that screens number is a little deceiving.
Right.
But it's still kind of, I don't know, it's still kind of a very shock value stat. So, Cam, do you want to go through some of these stats? Just read them. We'll get through as many as you can. If I need to stop you and I want to talk about some of these real quick, I'll just be like, hey, pause.
You got it. All right. Number 1, there's a decrease in movie screens. The number of movie screens in the U.S. shrunk from 41,172 in 2019 to 39,007 in 2022, which is a 5.3% decline. In North America, U.S. and Canada, the count fell from 44,283 to 42,063, a 5% reduction. Second point, average ticket price has increased. The average movie ticket price rose to $10.53 in 2022 from $9.16 in 2019. However, when adjusted for inflation, the 2020 price is actually lower than the 2019, which would be $10.58 and 1971 $11.92.
So
Number 3.
On this one, before you get into number 3,
Yeah.
and we're in right now the year of 2024, and the year of our Lord. Movie ticket prices right now, they're like what, $12? $12?
Not that much, yeah.
Average. Yeah, about
Yeah,
average.
that's where they're at, where I'm at usually. And buying online are usually like a tack on fee of some kind.
Mhm.
I saw something the other day that was actually kind of really funny. This is not something I would ever do or encourage. But it was what was called an unethical life pro tip. And I saw this on what was also called a real life loading screens tab, which these are just terrible. But basically, like in video games, they have loading screens before like a level, and there's like tips and tricks. And so on this one, it was if you purchase your tickets online and you use a senior discount or child discount, that's okay because no one at the theater is going to check you when you arrive. And I thought that was like really good. I'm like, oh man, that's really clever, but I'm not unethical enough to really do that. I don't really have the spine to do it. Not so much like
Yeah.
I'm afraid to get checked, but I'm like, I don't know. This just feels wrong. And I'm gonna sit there feeling guilty the whole time while I'm watching Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Why?
Cam, go ahead, continue.
All right. Point number 3, international growth. While the number of screens decreased in North America, it grew internationally from 200,949 to 212,590, which is a 5.8 increase.
Okay, stop there. So what's kind of crazy is we're seeing like this 5% decline across the board, or a little give or take 5%, for movie screens in the U.S. and then internationally in the world, it's like nearly 6% increase. So it's like almost as if things are just like moving from one place to another. I
Right.
know that's not exactly the case, but it's just like it's really odd. No, I'm looking at these numbers. It's like there's like a 5 common denominator like all across the board on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, continue.
Number 4, box office recovery. The number of movies set for worldwide... let me restart that. Box office recovery. The number of movies set for wide release in 2023 is expected to increase significantly from 71 in 2022 to 107, approaching the 112 films released in 2019. Number 5, importance of theatrical release. The report emphasizes the importance of theatrical releases over streaming, highlighting that movies released first in theaters are valued by viewers and generate higher box office revenues.
Okay. So on this one, I like this a lot because this talks about being directly in competition with streaming. And one thing that we did see, mostly, I don't want to say it started a little bit before the pandemic, but like during the pandemic, it hit so hard because no one was going to theaters, was a lot of movies that were just coming like direct to streaming, like direct to Netflix.
Right.
One that Merlin and I can think of that we were excited to see in theaters was The Interview. You remember this, Merlin? James Franco, Seth Rogen, North Korea.
That one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
So Merlin and I were like so excited to go see this in theaters. We would watch it in previews, and we were kind of like it was really weird. We were on like a weird James Franco, Seth Rogen kick
It's true.
kind of thing back in the day. I think it was because we watched not all together, but we watched what is it, The Last of Us, or this is The Last of Us. I don't remember that movie with James Franco, Seth Rogen. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of stars
It
in
had
it.
like a million people,
Yeah, Danny McBride, and it was funny because I mentioned
this is the end. I think it's
this is the end. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I watched that movie separately, and then I told Casey, William Walker, and Merlin about this, and then they went and watched it by themselves, and then we went like on a road trip, and we were all like talking about that movie. I'm like, did you guys watch that? And they're like, well, yeah. After you talked about it, we kind of got curious. We watched it on our own. So we were really pumped to go see the Interview, and then there was like threats and hacking stuff that was coming in, which everyone thought was from North Korea to the studio, and I think it was Sony at the time, if I'm correct. And the movie didn't get a theatrical release, and so it went directly to Netflix. And so we had to just watch it like in my apartment, which I mean, Merlin and I still had a great time watching it.
Yeah.
But if given the option to see it in theaters, we would have definitely went and probably seen it in theaters.
For sure.
Yeah. So
You know what? It was also the night before that had Seth Rogen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I think Michael B. Jordan was in it. Those three. Do you remember? And it was like those three at Christmas time. Seth Rogen plays like he's a Jewish guy and he's going around with a Hanukkah sweater.
I don't think I've seen this actually.
Was it not you? I thought it was you we saw it because it was a Seth Rogen, because we were going on the Seth Rogen kick.
Yeah, I saw what started me on the Seth Rogen kick. I don't think I saw this with you. I may have seen it with you at one point. I think it was the movie. I think it was 50-50 with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I never saw that with you.
Oh man.
Mm.
So I'm looking this up right now to make sure this is 50-50 with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
When Joseph
And-
Gordon-Levitt is sick, right?
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
Seth Rogen, I was never like a big fan of his. He always kind of played like dumb people in movies for a while.
Yeah.
And then he started breaking out of that. 50-50 is where I saw him really break out of that. I'm like, man, this guy's really good. Because in there he plays Joseph Gordon-Levitt's best friend, and spoiler alert for everyone who still has not seen it, Joseph Gordon-Levitt finds out his girlfriend's cheating on him, and the main character Joseph, he gets cancer. So it's just like all around bad. And so Seth Rogen like just rips into his girlfriend, and he's like, you know what? I finally have evidence that you suck as a person. And it was just such a good line. And the way that he delivered it was so on point. And like that right there was like the moment I turned like, okay, Seth Rogen, my opinion of you has changed completely. And he's done like really good work, like from a producer standpoint. He's a producer on The Boys on Amazon Prime. And he was a huge producer in the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated,
right?
The animated movie.
Okay, yeah.
That came out, I think, about 2 years ago. He was on there, and he's got a couple people that like he always works with. Rose Byrne is one of them, and she voiced a character in there. I think she voiced Leatherhead the crocodile with an Australian accent, which was really funny because she's from Australia. And it was just like really good. It was just like really well done overall.
I think people who, well, hitting on that, I think it's nice that when you says like there's people that he works with, that he sticks with, and everything. And I've noticed that the people who are like friends in real life, like the actors who are friends in real life and they team up together, always deliver really well, because you have Seth Rogen and his group of friends, James Franco, Rose Byrne, but then you can also look at what's his name? We saw him at.
Are you gonna say Simon Pegg?
Yeah, Simon Pegg.
I knew this was coming.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, because we love his movies that he's done. He has his group of friends that he sticks with, and then obviously the notorious Adam Sandler and his group of friends.
Exactly.
You know,
and it's kind of like you try to do work with people that like you enjoy, like I don't know, just being friends with. Which I guess that's kind of why I got you guys on here right now.
I mean, it's true, no, because you have that chemistry, you have that mindset, you have the chemistry, and you know. You don't have to like be like, oh man, this guy, you know.
They don't know what I'm thinking, like everyone.
Well, that you don't have to sit.
What's the guy's name from Tron? You know, like.
Well, that ends like you don't have to be upset about like the whole. Oh, this guy's making like 10 times more than I am, and like all I'm getting is a cup of coffee out of this. You know, it's.
Oh man, funny story. Speaking of a cup of coffee, and then we're gonna get like right back into the stats. I saw something. It was the Brad Pitt cameo in Deadpool 2.
Yes. Yep.
He originally he was being considered for the role of Cable. Didn't get it, but the director was like, "Hey, we still would like you in this movie. Would you want to do a cameo?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it because my kids love the first Deadpool." And he did it for the price of like a cup of coffee, like just a cup of coffee, which was even cooler. Ryan Reynolds returned the favor and did a cameo in Bullet Train.
Train.
Yeah. I thought that was just so cool.
Yeah.
For some reason, like a random, the more you know, like little Hollywood fact.
Well, it's nice that he did that because like he knows Brad Pitt like just did it basically for free because a cup of coffee, So
yeah, right.
So then you watch
I
Bullet Train.
I don't know these days, Merlin. A cup of coffee, it's pretty pricey.
I mean, $10. But anyways, no, it was I think Cam and I when I saw Bullet Train together, and I know when I saw Ryan Reynolds on screen, I had the world's biggest smile because I knew why he did that cameo. Like instantly, you knew why he was on there for only like 2 minutes of that movie. You knew why he was doing it. So
Nice. I haven't seen Bullet Train. Is it good?
it's really good.
It's very
Okay.
good.
I'll have to.
When he says, we both talked about it. It's like watching a Tarantino movie.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Which,
it's
well, which Tarantino movie?
just like I'm a good point. But
I do love most Tarantino movies. I'm not gonna lie.
It has that Tarantino feel to it because the stories are all like there's backstories and there's stories within stories.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like and
There's not a
it's
wasted moment.
Yeah, and it's just fast paced adrenaline and action where it's like you said this because I think I remember I leaned over to Cam like, did Quentin Tarantino do this movie?
Have you guys have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Not yet,
I've
no,
not.
but no.
Really? Okay. I
Yeah.
watched it with Caleb back when I visited Utah in I think it was 2021. And Caleb just loved it, and it's been kind of like one of his more favorite movies that like when we start talking film, like we start Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has kind of been like our film comparison lately.
Okay.
For different things, which is really weird that like it turned into our baseline. But it's just really well done, and it's just cool. And if you know a lot about like Hollywood and things like that, it's cool. It's cool to watch. If I was to like rent out a movie theater, there would be one of two movies that I would put on screen. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is probably number two. To get like a bunch of friends in and watch, I think that they would enjoy it. And number one would be Hot Fuzz.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I have seen in theaters twice after its original theatrical release, which we'll get into and we'll talk about as like we go further on. Cam, do you want to get back to these stats?
Sure thing. Let's see. All right, so number 6, consumer sentiment. Viewers prefer a diverse range of genres and are willing to pay premium prices for unique big screen experiences. Longer theatrical release windows help delay price spikes.
So here's something
delay
really
piracy spikes.
Yeah, so here's something very interesting on that one right now. And this is gonna hit like really home with both of you. So the Borderlands movie came out in August, and by the time this airs, it's gonna be like mid-September or early September for this episode. And so Borderlands came out, it bombed at the box office. It did not have a very long theatrical run. Deadpool versus Wolverine. I know it's called Deadpool and Wolverine, but I like calling it Deadpool versus Wolverine because it's stupid. Deadpool versus Wolverine. It came out in end of July. It's September right now. It's still going.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. And
Very impressive.
And so something else with this delay of piracy spikes. I saw the whole Borderlands movie on YouTube, which is crazy because like Merlin and I have been talking for weeks about the Borderlands movie, and I'm like, I'm not gonna see it. And I've had this joke of maybe we're gonna do an at the movies review for Borderlands where none of us has seen it. And then I was working on like writing some show notes, and I happened to have something pulled up on YouTube, and I saw like on the side like a recommended video for Borderlands as well as an ad to watch Borderlands as well for both of these, which is just like insane. And actually like oh my gosh, here, let me share my screen because I have the screenshots of these too, which is crazy. So here is the Borderlands ad that like popped up like as I was watching Borderlands the movie, and then on top of that, here's like where I saw Borderlands. Like it was uploaded. It stayed online for about a day. It got like over 1 million views as well. And this was on YouTube. And by the way, this was HD quality. This was not like low quality at all. This was like pristine, nice, which is even crazier to think about because like a lot of the Deadpool clips that have come out on YouTube have been basically like some idiots filming from their phone.
Right.
Type of thing. So this stat right here, longer theatrical release windows to help delay privacy spikes, that is very true. Also, if it's not been hinted at enough, we are going to do an at the movies about Borderlands because as I showed, I gave Merlin, Cameron, and Caleb all the link to this. and Caleb actually sat down and watched it. He went through and watched it. I watched it too, and I just kept having to pause it and take notes for everything. So whether Merlin and Cameron see this movie or not, to make fun of it, we're gonna have an at the movies for it.
That does
And we're
not
not-
bode well.
And we're not gonna have a spoiler tag for it because no one is gonna see this movie anyway.
I mean, it's true.
There, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Cam, number 7.
Number 7, the impact of the pandemic. It remains unclear how many of the theater closures are permanent. Pandemic significantly affected the industry, but the number of screens has only decreased by 5.25%. Number 8, the future outlook. The report is optimistic about the future of moviegoing, citing innovations and opportunities for both exhibitors and studios. Health of box office recovery is closely tied to the number of wide releases from Hollywood studios. Number 9, and National Cinema Days. Initiatives like National Cinema Day have positively influenced moviegoing habits, with 60% of attendees more likely to resume regular visits to theaters. And lastly, number 10, theatrical experience value. The report concludes that streaming cannot replace theaters, which are essential for the film ecosystem, and stress the importance of theaters or producing billion-dollar movies and maintaining high-budget film productions.
So number 10 right there. That one, it's like, I don't know how much I agree or disagree with that, because it's like, I could see film, like, I could see streaming easily overtaking the box office these days, which is sad to say. Like, I love going to the movies, but I could see it both ways on this, because go ahead.
I could see that happening only if the streaming services do what they do with theaters is, oh, you want to stream this movie? Great. Pay for it.
Yeah.
You got to pay for each showing of it.
Or something.
So
remember back in the day, but it was like maybe 20 years ago, if you went to a motel, and they had those remotes that like, oh, you can click through different
pay-per-view.
Yeah, you can have a pay-per-view movie that was in theaters put into your motel room. I could see something like that.
We're looping.
Yeah, it's coming full circle here,
Yep.
people. So, in short, movie theaters just aren't what they were pre-pandemic. And here's a couple stats I found that like make this even crazier. I found like kind of conflicting stats on this. AMC, I read earlier that it was like when I did my research on this, it was $4.8 billion in debt. Which, Cam, you had a good number for this. What did you call this?
Yeah, I said they're a Star Wars in debt.
They are a Star Wars in debt. They are a huge franchise in debt. But like as I kept looking further, right before the show, I was like, I wonder if that number's still accurate. I found another stat that said it was $8.67 billion in debt, which is just an astronomical amount of money, just a little less than my actual student loans, if we're being honest. It's and it's crazy because like I want to blame The Walking Dead for this, but I know that's not the case because The Walking Dead was their cash cow. But I'm just bitter that show went on so long and just dropped in quality after season 1 and half of season 2. And yeah, and I kept watching it. It was the thing to do. Merlin and I had a good time watching it, but
I was back when friends got together and watched
Yeah.
shows that, Game of Thrones did it for a little bit, but I felt like halfway through Game of Thrones, that's when, like, hey, let's go to my place and watch Game of Thrones, it was
Yeah,
kind of like
and-
Breaking Bad,
Breaking Bad, yeah,
Walking Dead, like, that was what you did. You got together with your friends and just went and watched it. Now it's kind of
Yeah.
like, now since streaming is the go-to thing, it was like, oh, screw you, I'm gonna go watch it on my own, It's like,
yeah, and well, even like when streaming was the thing too, like after it had like its initial like release run, we kind of had some trouble with this, like within our friend group. Not so much me, but I remember it was you were going to watch something with one of our friends, and they're like, "I already binged it the other night,"
Yeah, it
or
was an
whatever.
anime. Yeah, an
Yeah,
anime.
yeah, yeah. I remember you telling me about this. I'm like, "This is how it is, man.
No,
Unfortunately."
and it is, and going with the streaming mindset, I think that's kind of, you can take that as the movie experience. Before, you guys used to be like, let's go see it as a group of friends. You would go
Yeah,
see the
like, "Hey
movies with your
guys,
friends.
Expendables 2's coming out."
Yeah, I was so, no, and you made an event, you made time with your friends, and now it's, I'm just gonna wait till it streams. I'll just stream it on my streaming service, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh, guess I'll just go by myself as I
pretty
watch it.
much. I always it's funny and sad that you mentioned that because I always went to the theaters with people until like I think the first movie I saw alone in a theater was John Wick 3.
Okay.
That yeah, and then after that I saw Avatar and I'm like or the new Avatar, Avatar 2, and I'm like this isn't so bad. It's okay. It's just like a little bit different. It's definitely more fun with people.
I've actually heard on like social media that a lot of people are going to movie theaters alone because they find it therapeutic. Like
Yeah.
you
So
go and get your popcorn, you get your large drink, and you can sit there in this like recliner by yourself. Like you don't have to worry about conversation. You don't have to worry, And I can you can see that side.
yeah,
I prefer going with friends and people, like a group, myself. But I've also gone to movies by myself because my work schedule is different than everyone else's. So sometimes I'll go by myself, and sometimes you sit there, you're like, okay, yeah, this isn't bad. Like
yeah,
you're not crying in the dark.
yeah. Well, so I moved to right now. I'm currently located in Noblesville, Indiana, like 30 minutes north of Indianapolis. Super cool place. Just like a really cool it's kind of like a mid-sized city. And it's got like just everything I need within like 10 minutes. It's crazy cool.
Okay,
And
nice.
everything's like really close for the most part. And I live downtown, which is nice. There's no movie theater in walking distance here, which is a bit of a bummer, but like it's like maybe a 5 or 10 minute drive to a movie theater. And then there's another one like another 10 minutes away from that one. So or 5 minutes away. So it's pretty cool. So when I first got here, I found a movie theater, and they were playing a movie that I wanted to see, which was Monkey Man. It was made by Dev Patel. I think I'm saying that correctly. And like a crazy story behind this movie. He made it for like 10 million. It got sold to Netflix for like 13 million. And then Netflix was like, this movie's really weird because it's like dealing with like um corruption and underground boxing, and it's a power struggle type movie, but also just like kind of like a lot of weird stuff going on with it. And Netflix was like, what do we do? And then Jordan Peele saw it and he's like, this movie rocks. I want it. So he ended up buying it from Netflix for less than Netflix bought it for. So Netflix took a loss on it, which of course they used as a tax write-off because let's be real, Netflix doesn't pay taxes. And so and then it got a theatrical run and under Jordan Peele's movie label. And it did like not like super well, but like a lot more than the 10 million they paid to make it. Which is, I was going through and I was watching this, I was like, what is this? Like, there's no way this only cost 10 million. Like, they just did some really cool movie magic with it. So I saw that movie alone. I went in the theater. I'm like, there was no one else there. And I'm like, I can get used to this. And then afterwards, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go see another movie. So I just like did like a double feature. And I saw something else that day too. So it is kind of therapeutic and cool. Back to talking about like just like the theaters in general and closings, Alamo Drafthouse Theaters. In 2021, it was going to file for bankruptcy. And then it was like briefly saved. It did not like go into bankruptcy from what I've seen. And then it ended up closing a ton of locations anyway. And now it's like the whole movie theater chain is up for sale. And the other thing that's crazy is like, for me, this is like the king of movie theaters. Like, it shows like old movies, and like they have like what are called movie parties where they'll give out like little different things for people. So I seen Hot Fuzz at these at the Alamo twice, different times. Once like right as the pandemic hit, and then once at like as the pandemic was over. And they gave out like different things. Like they gave out like a little mustache, a cap gun, to like shoot off like randomly
Yeah.
at the screen. The second time that I went, they gave like a pair of aviators
Nice.
for it, which I still have, and they're terrible. I went with my brother, and he's got a set of them too. And he called them his backup aviators. He's like, they're so dark, I can't see anything out of them. And he's right, but they're still cool. So
No.
those are my go-to aviators. Besides these other aviators I bought for like $5 in 2004 from the Compton Fashion Center. Like I just have like these crappy aviators.
I think aviators are supposed to be dark because I had some aviators and I still have them, but they're the most darkest sunglasses I've ever put on before. Where I'm like, whoa, even when it's sunny, it's still pretty dark.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for me, I just thought it was always because I had these low quality ones. Because I either got them for free or for $5.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I wonder if aviators are supposed to be dark, like
Mhm.
because mine are dark, but
So I got a pair of aviators. I got like this foam swan, as well, like a little one. So I took that foam swan and actually put it in one of my plants, like right next to it as well. So I still have it. It's kind of funny. But like those movie parties, they were just like so cool, lots of fun, something to do. I've seen lots of movies that way. Big Trouble in Little China, Army of Darkness. There have been quite a few that I've seen with these releases, and that's been like more of a common thing that I think the Alamo. I don't want to say that they didn't pioneer this, but I feel like they perfected it with the little things that they give away. Is like releasing these old movies, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. But let's go to the flip side of this. Let's talk about streaming for a moment.
Mhm.
So the streaming experience right now, I feel like either this was going on before the pandemic, but I feel like during the pandemic, since everyone was in, they started buying like crazy sound systems, giant TVs, super comfortable couches because they just wanted to make their home great because they were there all the time.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Said it makes sense.
Yeah, and also like if you're at home, food doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Like popcorn isn't going to be like $10-12.
it's true.
It's like a bag you throw in a microwave. You're like, I'm good, and it's not nearly as good as the movie theater popcorn by any means, but still popcorn.
$10.
We can argue that too.
86
though,
cents.
'cause I always say like, do we pay for quantity or do you pay for quality? Because I've thought the same thing where I'm like, man, I'm really craving popcorn. You can throw the bag in the microwave and you eat it. Like, oh man. It's like, why is that my popcorn burnt?
Yeah, exactly. How come it's not like how come it's not like drenched in butter? Like,
Half the kernels are burnt, half of them are unpopped.
yeah,
So it's kind of like I mean, you're right. I hate paying that $12 for that popcorn, but by golly, when I'm sitting there eating it, I'm like,
yeah, exactly. And there's no way you can get through that bucket either. I mean, at least I can. I don't know
I
about
was
you
just saying,
guys.
I was saying like,
Challenge accepted.
no, I was no comment because
I-
Sam knows.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't. Like for me, that's a whole meal, and I only get through maybe like fourth of the bucket tops.
Yep. Same.
Yeah,
I think it's meant to be shared with friends, but if you're going alone, I guess it's like our quote about pizza. With enough dedication, any pizza can become a personal pizza.
exactly. It's
It's
like,
like that
lay
with the
off,
popcorn.
man. I'm starving.
Yeah, it's like that with the popcorn. With enough dedication,
Oh my gosh,
any bucket of popcorn can become an individual bucket of popcorn.
it could become a personal popcorn.
Yeah. So you have like this viewing at home,
Mhm.
and which is cool and all, and you're only waiting like what 3-4 months before you see a movie if you're already paying for a streaming service. So it's like going back to this argument, like it's going to be streaming versus theatrical runs for a while. I don't see that changing, but I feel like
No.
the pandemic definitely upped the game on that, and people just aren't really wanting to go out to the movies as much anymore. So Memorial Day weekend, here's when like I kind of became like really starting to notice this like a lot more. So, this was Furiosa. I love this title. Furiosa edges
Just slap my forehead.
Did you? Furiosa edges Garfield and worst Memorial Day weekend since 1995. This is a real article. And
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elizabeth Ireland wrote that title. She knew what she was writing. So it like this Memorial Day weekend was not good. Los Angeles Times reported that movies brought in just like 128 million over Memorial Day weekend, making it like the worst box office showing in 26 years. And then BBC said Furiosa saw one of the worst opening Memorial Day weekends in over 30 years. And they only brought in like total, like not opening weekend,
Yeah,
but
just total.
Total for the movie of Furiosa was 172.8 million against its budget of 168 million. Which pretty crazy to think about. And also, like, Furiosa was a really good revenge movie. I just want to point that out there. It was no Mad Max Fury Road, but it wasn't trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it was like a super amazing movie, but it was a great revenge movie. And I feel like it really did deserve better.
It was really good for what it was. That's what, the plot and the, like you said, revenge movie, like everything that it was supposed to be, it delivered really well. They did a really good job with it.
Yeah, like I went in, I didn't have like low expectations. I was actually pretty hyped for the movie. And when I left, I was like, that was really good.
Yeah, same.
And I was a little bummed, like the trailer, like I kind of knew what was going to happen next because like the way the trailer plays out, it shows like where the different scenes happen, and you kind of know what's going to happen next. Unfortunately,
that's a trend with trailers recently.
It is, and Furiosa, it kind of hit hard with that. I wish I kind of went in like completely blind, but I was watching the trailer like a couple times a week. I was like really pumped for that movie. Like I was like,
I think that happened with like Quantumanium. Like they basically blew everything with Quantumanium in the trailers.
Is Quantumania the third Ant-Man movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd have to ask Caleb because Caleb has Caleb has watched Quantumania, and like it's super funny because when he saw Quantumania, like he told me, like he watched it at home, and he was like really like he was talking about it to me in chat, and I'm like, hold up, Caleb, you're watching Quantumania? And this is after like he has been venting about like the MCU, how bad it was for like, I mean, I guess ever. I mean, we have a near 3-hour episode that is predating this episode where Caleb raved about the MCU. And yeah, I don't, it released last week. And what's really crazy about it is like someone's texting me and they're like, I'm 2 hours into the Caleb's Marvelous Marvel rant and I'm just like, I never thought I'd see the day where someone says, I'm 2 hours in to one of your episodes. But here we are. Caleb somehow has raised the bar on episode length. We had nearly 3 hours of him ranting about the MCU. Granted, I talked a little bit during that too, and we could have probably went longer.
You can look back at Batman vs Superman. I don't know.
That one was a long episode too.
Because we ranted on that one, and that one we had to draft a few things on that one because it was just going so long.
Yeah, that was a long episode. I feel like I cut a lot of it too.
And I think it was like one of your higher rated episodes
did,
too.
And that was before. So here's something else I saw that was really crazy. The other day for podcasts, someone had a 9-hour interview with Elon Musk.
Wow.
And one, I could not stand talking to that motherfucker for more than 9 seconds. But like 9 hours for a podcast, it's like really pushing the boundaries for like links for a podcast. I know like when we were doing the show, we were about maybe like 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Now that we've come back, we're starting to get into like an hour and a half and longer. Like we're not meaning to be long form content. We just have a lot more that we like to talk about.
Well, you know what?
And we started off on an internet radio station where we were constructed, and we kind of got stuck with that. Sorry, go ahead, Merlin.
No, you know what? And not to go off a topic here, but I think that we've talked about this before. When we first started doing your show, like when you were doing it, then we would try to reviving it. We started doing the whole short and sweet, because of people's time spans, like the attention spans at the
Yeah.
time. Was like anything over 30 or 40 minutes, people were like, and I'm done, you know? And
Yeah.
and they would move on to like another show. They would listen to music. They would just move on. But now, like you said, with times of the changing with theaters and with movies, you can look at the times changing now with podcasts. Like true crime podcasts are the wave, you know, audiobooks are the wave.
I can't wait till we have true crime episodes.
And well,
So side note, I actually have notes written up for a true crime podcast episode,
Ooh.
but it's actually talking about true crime
Oh, okay.
and people looking into it after a crime has already happened and reviving those things, and armchair experts like causing harm by getting involved with the law when they don't need to be.
No, that's actually
Anyway, not to like be
No.
like, oh, we got a true crime episode coming, everybody.
I was gonna say.
Setting the expectations.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, you know, if you make a true crime episode, that's probably gonna be like number one. But anyway,
Oh, damn it.
I was
And
gonna say,
it's supposed to actually talk about like the issues with true crime.
no, well,
To be
no,
honest,
well, it's funny because a lot of people agree with it. That's why I says like it would probably be a number one, like it'd be high in
Yeah.
the rating. But I'm just saying, like, you know, back in the day, it's like, okay, that's 45 minutes to the max because, you know, people's attention span. But
Okay.
now, since podcasts, audiobook, like since people are listening more to shows and
Well, I think
podcasts.
I think people figured out there to crank up the speed button.
Yeah.
I don't think people noticed that before, and it's like, oh, this guy talks slow, and then it's like going and it's hitting. They're like, oh, I can go 2x or 1.5 or 1.75. I always listen to things at like 1.5 or 7.5 because my hearing can't take the high pitch after it starts going up so much
Yeah.
with that increased speed. I wonder how like Caleb's saying, you know, it sounds on like 2x speed when people are listening. That's got to be nuts. It's like no
does
one.
that
Nope.
mean we should talk slowly for the people who listen to this fast?
I mean, if
Like-
we're running ads, sure. God.
Go to your local burger stand right
Oh
now.
man. Yeah.
But
It's funny.
anyways,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Anyway, okay. Side note: the Batman versus Superman episode. I just looked up the time. On this is the actual file.
Yeah.
It's only an hour and 10 and almost an hour and 11 minutes. Yeah, after being edited. So
Okay, yeah, okay.
So Caleb went and doubled the length of that,
Jeez.
and then added some in.
because I was just saying, like, I remember we ranted for a long time. And it was like, oh, let's bring it back, guys. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, we were getting way off topic, which we are right now.
Why now?
But back to I never thought I'd
More
say
things
this next
change,
line.
more they stay the same.
Back to the Garfield movie.
Sorry, fix it. Fix it in
But
post.
on the Garfield movie overall, that came out with a 200. It made a lot of money. Holy cow! It was like I'm looking at this, and I don't even want to read the numbers right now. How much it made? It made so much money. It made like double what Furiosa made,
Wow.
and
Jeez.
that and then some. It's ridiculous, and I don't want to. I don't want to give it that. I don't want to acknowledge that because I don't like Chris Pratt.
Well,
I'm gonna
let's
be
move on.
that guy. I don't like Chris Pratt. I'm
I'm with
tired of
that.
seeing him. I'm tired of seeing him everywhere. I'm tired of hearing him everywhere. I'm gonna go watch the Mario movie. Oh no. Anyway,
So with that, let's move on.
yeah. Oddly, like my I have a nephew who loves Chris Pratt, and I'm like, he's like really like Jurassic World, and I'm like, as like a film, as someone who's like really big into film, I'm like, I don't know how to tell my nephew I don't like this. I'm just gonna keep quiet. So
Probably the best.
Just go
Yeah,
to him and be like,
yeah.
you don't even know.
yeah, you
Don't
know.
even
So
know.
speaking of overpaid actors, let's talk about the Hollywood strikes. So Hollywood strikes were happening for a while, and they're always like, I feel like they're coming back always because of like threat of AI and things like that. I played around with AI for like writing things quite a bit. In our next episode, guys, the episode that we have for The Flash has not aired yet. That'll be airing next week. We actually play around with some like AI concepts for things. And I feel like AI is like a fun tool to come up with concepts, but I really don't feel like it's replacing a screenwriter, at least not yet. And so that's been like a big thing that's been going on lately. But also, and this is Caleb's stance. I kind of wish he was here for this. He has not been happy with like new stories that have been coming out from Hollywood over the past like couple of years. And so he's gotten a lot more into anime because it's new to him. It's something different. And I get that. I'm 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
So average movie going experience now. We've talked about like streaming. Let's talk about going to the movies. So arriving to the movies, you get there. It's 20 minutes of previews and trailers.
At least.
And sometimes commercials. Go
The
to your
local-
local burger
Local
shack.
branch. Yeah, absolutely.
What'd
You're
you say,
gonna get.
Cam?
If it's a local theater chain, you're absolutely getting half of the previews are just gonna be ads for local.
Yeah, and I've seen ads for kids dentist stuff while I was waiting for Alien Romulus. I mean, something that was really funny when I saw Alien Romulus. Cam, have you seen Alien Romulus? I know Merlin has.
I am not.
Ooh, dang. Miss it out. It's good. If you do see it, I'd love to talk about it. But
Because it's in space.
you can get it because it's in space. So I would probably call Alien Romulus like the episode title, like it would be Alien Romulus. Get it because it's in
'Cause it's
space.
space.
Like that would be like the tagline for it. Romulus was good though. I really liked it. I kind of want to see it again, to be honest. Because I actually had to go to the bathroom, like right before it ended, and I came in, the credits started rolling. I'm like, ah, crap. Hey everyone, what I missed? And so I had to like look up online, like see what I missed. Yeah, that needs to be another thing when we rate movies. How often I had to go to the bathroom.
Because that's what people care about.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I know.
Were you invested enough that if you left to the bathroom,
I didn't
would
want
it
to.
hurt
I
your
just,
times?
I feel like I drink a lot of soda, man. Like
It's
when
a large soda.
it's a large soda, and it's the only place I found that has a caffeine-free diet cherry vanilla Coke. Like I can't
How
find
many
any.
additives was that?
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. Caffeine. I'm gonna say it again. Diet caffeine-free cherry vanilla Coke. I can't find it anywhere else. I don't know why. It seems like it's a very simple concoction to make.
Yeah, that just brush off the recipe. Easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark's like, every time I want a Coke, now I have to go to that sea.
Pretty much. Like if I want that specific one, like that's to me, that's the best Coke there is right there. The
Gotta
only
get that pump that you can use to siphon off the soda fountain.
so yeah, man, just took it to my veins. Like it's so
Just go
it's
whip your shirt. Just hook it to my vein.
right here next to the heart. Yeah, it's such good soda, and so it's like fills up my bladder. Gotta go. So anyway, um, oh, I didn't know. This
Yeah,
was not
hit
in the
Merlin's
notes,
funny bone.
people.
I was gonna say, like, what is happening?
What
Yeah,
is-
hit his funny bone.
Fix
The
it
sad
post.
thing is, we're still on topic.
Fix it post.
I'm leaving this in. So anyway, the movie going experience. It's weird. So okay, yeah, back to Alien Romulus. So when I was watching it, like a mom and like her two kids opened up the door, like while the alien was on screen, and I'm like, they're definitely in the wrong theater, or those kids are really desensitized. Like it's one or the other. And they ended up leaving. So I think it was the first one, but I don't know. They were probably looking to see if there was a theater with Garfield or something. So anyway,
Quite the contrast. Garfield.
quite the contrast.
Alien.
So yeah. So these 20 minutes of previews and commercials, I've been kind of arriving late. Just because I don't want to sit through all these commercials or everything else. Like, yeah, not really.
I kind of wonder if that's why they do it though, because they know a lot of people only that's your time to go. Because let's be honest,
Let's all go to the lobby.
exactly. No, I was
Let's-
going to say let's all go. But like,
Mhm.
let's be honest. There's been times where Cam and I have gone to the movies, and we have like 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes right before the movie starts. But you look at that concession line, and you know it's going to take a lot longer than 5 minutes. It's probably going to be 15, 15 minutes
What-
tops before you can get through that. And, but
what's crazy for me, concession lines, I've only seen them packed on Tuesdays. Every other time I've
course.
gone, it's been like I can just walk up and be like, I want this, and it's quick, and I'm in and out.
no, and we've noticed that if you go see a movie past 5, those concession lines get stacked pretty big. But before 5, you can walk right up to them. But that's what I'm saying. There was a time I can remember. I can't remember the movie, but Cam and I went to the movie, and Cam just came straight from work, and he's like, "Hey, I haven't eaten. I'm gonna go get some concession." I'm like, "Okay," but you look at the line, and you're like, "Oh, you're gonna." But but we knew 20, and Cam was even like, "It's 20 minutes previews, man. Don't worry about it." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
no
good
joke.
point. And especially,
And he came in and like he missed like 5 previews, and he came in. He's just like, he's like, "See, told you the movie would start." I'm like, "How are you doing?"
and sometimes I liked sitting through some of the previews.
Yeah, agreed.
Because like they were fun. It was like when I was with friends though, like with you guys. When we saw, I was literally gonna say that. So
you stole my bit.
we saw. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to?
Oh, go ahead. No, you're good.
Okay,
You're
so for those that don't know, the get it because they're in space joke. This came from. It's one of those things that's like really stupid but really funny. But like one time, Merlin you or Cam that bought like the whole box set of the Aliens movies.
Yeah, I bought the
Merlin.
Yeah,
okay,
it was me.
Merlin. So Merlin bought like the whole Aliens box set, and he's like, "You want to watch these?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, dude! Have you not seen these?" He's like, "No," and I'm like, "Oh, dude, they're so cool." Like I like the Aliens franchise. Like I even like Prometheus. I like Aliens versus Predator. Guilty pleasure, obviously, but like I just really like the Aliens franchise in general. It's cool. It's weird. There's always different stories, a lot of replayability. You're not really concerned about continuity with the Aliens movies. So we're watching the very first Alien movie, Alien, and they said a joke in the movie, and it wasn't funny. And keep in mind, this movie was made in 1979, so obviously humor is like way different, and so it wasn't funny. And Cam and Merlin and we just didn't laugh, and I just kind of look at them, and I was like, get it, because it's in space, and Merlin and Cameron and we just bust out laughing. Because it was a space joke and it was really dumb, but it was just so funny. And every time we saw like anything with aliens, we're always just like, get it? Because they're in space or it's in space. And so that's our dumb joke with that. And one time we were watching movie previews, I think it was for Logan, and it was a trailer for Alien Covenant. And then Cam like leads over and he's like, get it? Because they're in space. And like we just like lost it. We're just like laughing at the previews. And people are looking at us like we're stupid. So
Times.
those were the best times. So
Adds to the theater going experience.
Yeah, and it was great. So another thing is this is a great transition of us laughing like idiots. People don't enjoy going to the movies anymore because the audiences are unruly. As you know, we're laughing. But like Merlin, Casey, William Walker, and I, and Cam, I think you were there for this too when we saw Zootopia for my birthday.
Yes, I was so hoping you were going to bring this up.
Yeah, it was funny because like we went in and there's all these like kids
and families.
and family, and then it's like out of the way. We're like these like. I think I was like early, I was like 30 at the time. I just turned 30. I don't know. I was in my early 30s. Everyone was like in their late or mid 20s, like you guys. And we're all like, we're going to watch this movie.
Well, it's because
Zootopia.
Well, we asked, it's like, well, Mark is like, Mark, what do you want to go see for your birthday? And he's like, Zootopia. And we're like, okay, that's fine. Because I've seen it before. And
I didn't think it was a big deal. Like, I'm like, it looks good.
Yeah,
I didn't
saw
even
it
think about like we're all grown men going to see this movie. I was like,
because I'm like, I love it. I think I saw that movie twice already before I saw it with you for your birthday. So when you're like, I want to see Zootopia for my birthday, I'm like, heck yeah, let's go see it. Because I was like, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like the audience aspect. I thought of it from the, hey, this looks good, I want to see it aspect.
Exactly.
And when we saw it, we were just like, there were so many adult humor things or things that like, I was like, can't believe they got away with this in there.
Written for the adults, not the kid.
Yeah, and we were just laughing so hard, and no one else in the theater is like getting any of it, not landing. And so we probably just seemed like jerks from like laughing so hard. But I don't think that that's what this comment is like referring to. So I've heard from people that are like, yeah, when I go to theater, people are like texting next to me or like shouting and like cheering and stuff like that. And I experienced that like once, but when I went and I saw Endgame for like the third time, I yeah, someone like shouted like yeah or something during like one scene, and that was it. And that like wasn't too bad. It didn't ruin my movie going experience, but I'm always hearing about people complaining about like, oh, I can't go to movies anymore. Everyone's talking and all this other stuff. And I kind of talk a little bit during the movies, but not much.
I saw
It
with
kind of
that.
depends. I don't do it anymore. I used to do it a lot, but mostly just to annoy Casey.
Well, anyway, so, but
Casey.
it's funny that you bring that up because I went to go see Coraline, the 15th anniversary of
Dude, I
Coraline.
wanted to go. I just didn't get around to seeing it. Did you do it in 3D?
I did.
Okay, so side note, I actually still have a Coraline DVD, and I have 3D glasses. My parents got it for me for Christmas one year, and it's one of the few DVDs I have. So if I ever make it out to Utah, which I hope to never do again, but if we ever meet up somewhere and there's a DVD player, I'll bring it and we'll do it, man.
Because I saw it, and that was the first time I saw Coraline. I've never seen.
Ooh.
Yeah, so and that's what everyone was telling me. So I saw it, and I took someone with me, and we were all watching this during the 15th anniversary in 3D.
Kind of dark, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you're telling me. But anyways, but what was frustrating, and this is what happens when you put a movie back at theaters that everyone has seen, right? Because it's been 15 years. Everyone's seen that movie 15 years, but when you see it for the first time, I had an incident where on the same aisle as us, probably the opposite. So we were on the far left end, and on the far right end, there was this one little kid with his mom.
Ooh.
And this kid just kept going like, basically rehearsing the whole lines of the movie because the kid knew it.
No.
But the kid was saying it out loud. It's not like he was whispering or anything. He's saying it out loud. And you're like, it's a kid, and it's a kid's show, so you let that slide.
It's rated PG,
Yeah.
despite how dark it is.
For wheels. I'm just like, what is this? Wait, did Quentin Tarantino do this? Anyways, but
Yeah, but Tarantino.
But what made it worse was halfway through the movie, these three teenage girls walked in, and quite frankly, I think they crashed that movie because they just randomly picked an aisle. It's like they weren't looking at a ticket or anything. They just found it and sat down on it.
No.
And right off the bat, you kind of go like, oh, here we go. And sure enough,
it's the youth of today.
well, and sure enough, those three girls are sitting in these seats, and in your peripheral vision, you see them pulling out the phones. So you see they have the phone light is going on. They have the flashlights going on for some reason.
Lights.
Yeah, so the flashlights are
The camera light on their phone.
Yeah, but why would you hit the theater?
and
the
and
screen
then,
on
how
the
dark
self is
it is.
bad.
I
but the
mean, I don't
flashlight-
know.
well, and then you
Oh.
hear the loud thudding noises, like kicking off their shoes, and they're laughing and they're talking, and it's not even whispering at this point. They're just flat out just talking, and they did that the whole movie. And finally, you're just like, okay, are they gonna leave? Because it was the 15th anniversary, and there was like a stay tuned, kind of like when we saw The Killing Joke in theaters, like stay tuned kind of. And that was basically like recreating Coraline because they were talking about since it's in 3D and bringing it back to theaters, the reanimation and the process of now since they have 3D printers all available. And it was really interesting from a filmmaker's point of view. Like if you like stop motion.
Yeah, and I love stop motion.
Yeah, I love stop motion. So it was something that was really entertaining. But these girls just were playing on the phones. The lights were going off. They were laughing. They were talking. And you were trying to watch this interesting thing, but you couldn't pay attention because these girls are just like making this huge, like laughing, like the phone lights are going off. And then they were laughing because since they kicked their shoes off, they couldn't find their shoes. And then all three of them turned the flashlights on looking for them. And at the same point, I'm kind of sitting there, I'm like, well, where's the line? Like, where's the line before you're like, hey, well, and because it's true. It's like, I get it. It's 15 years.
Yeah,
everyone's seen it. I get that. But at the same time,
when do you get an usher?
Well, and when do you stand up and say, hey, knock it off? Like either
I really
watch
need
it.
you to shut the fuck up right now.
It's like, well, and it's just like, and when we left with the person I went with, I was like, I turned him like, so what's the point of going to the theater if you're not going to watch it? Like, if you're just going to sit there and watch TikToks and talk and everything.
That's
like,
how I went to Bill Burr a few years back. I've seen Bill Burr twice. Great shows both times. But there were some people like just like right down from me, and they like pretty close by me. They kept like playing games on their phone and everything, and I'm like, you can do this at home, like on a Netflix special. Which if they would have waited like a couple more months, that went out on Netflix. But eventually they got offended, got up and left. But like those are I mean, those were like cheap tickets. I mean, not like super expensive, but like for a night out to just go and like play on your phone.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the difference between that experience that Merlin was talking about and then us going to see Zootopia. Yes,
Yeah,
we're being a little bit rowdy and rambunctious.
We're like, yeah,
We're engaged with the film.
yeah, we're
We're
like
laughing
interacting with
it,
it, and
interacting with it,
yeah.
not something else like the phone.
So it's the movie going experience has obviously changed because people are they kind of suck.
Mhm.
I haven't like I've been fortunate enough to where I haven't had like too many issues with that. Luckily, very fortunate. So Merlin, when you mentioned like the people talking type of thing, the Alamo when they would have their movie parties, they would have quote-alongs, and like if people were like going to talk during the movie, they had to be quoting someone on screen for it. But they only did it for certain movie parties.
Okay.
So when I saw Hot Fuzz, I don't think they did it for either time for that. However, for Army of Darkness and Big Trouble in Little China, they were having quote-alongs. People were like quoting it next to me and stuff. And I didn't really mind because like that was the rules were established beforehand. Like these are the expectations of how to behave, and everyone followed them. But like the reason I love the Alamo so much is because they had like a no jerk policy, is what they called it, where if someone would, if they would pull out their phone or start talking, they would get one warning or just ejected without a refund.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Like they did not mess around, and I never had any issues with that. But maybe the reason I haven't had like any of these things like experiences like what you're talking about is because I've gone to the Alamo for the majority of my movies, not all of them, but quite a few. Since like this year, there's no Alamo here, unfortunately, but it's still I've gone to like, 2 movie theaters. One that not very well populated. It might as well be a dollar theater at this point, and another one that's just like the ones like we would go to those big AMCs type of things. So, speaking of other things like with the average movie-going experience, time and parking. So that's a factor for some people that I found in like a little bit of my research. And then the overpriced food, snacks, and drinks, which I get that. I may have been sneaking in some of the, the nerd gummies.
Oh, those are delicious.
Dude, I am addicted to those suckers.
A lot of
They're
people
great.
are. Yeah.
So good. Like it's basically like flaming hot Cheetos type of invention.
You can just
or
burn
meal.
through those things like crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, bag's gone. This thing was huge.
Yeah, and those are sold at movie theaters, and like I've been sneaking in my own. Like
Good
no
on ya.
shame. Yeah. But I usually will get popcorn. I'll get some snacks. I definitely get my drink, which I have mentioned is a diet caffeine-free cherry vanilla Coke. It's pretty amazing, guys. Try it next time, or get the caffeinated version or whatever. Anyway, sorry, go on. What were you gonna say? Okay. So here was another thing that I kind of want to ask: are movie theaters crowded anymore like they used to be? I think not.
Did you say crowded?
Yeah. Remember like when we would go and like we would have like big crowds for like some things that we would see?
Yeah.
I don't see that much anymore.
We see it that on like for sure Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay.
There's been a couple of times, well, not really. We've stopped going to the movies at night for that specific reason.
And
but
generally weekends.
Yeah, especially
if we
weekends.
do weekends, we go through during the day.
Yeah. So Friday and Saturday though, for sure, it's just gonna be crowded. And like I said, especially after 5. After 5, it's like you said, the parking, the crowds, the concessions, everything we've been talking about, that shows up Friday and Saturdays for sure, and definitely Tuesdays.
Yeah,
all day Tuesday, because
that's when movies are like half price.
yeah, and that's what everyone waits for. That's purposely, oh, we'll go see it on Tuesday.
That's what I do.
Yeah, but the thing is, now that's the norm because everyone wants to save money, and so now it's all day too. Because like I says, if I'm off on a Tuesday and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go see a movie, I can go over there like at 11 a.m. for a movie because I like to go to 11 a.m. movies, and already like half the parking lot's away full. I'm like, what? Don't these people have jobs? You know, and
Right.
and but
I'm unemployed, but don't these people have something to do?
Well, but I've gone Tuesday nights because I made the mistake of, oh, let's go see that movie on Tuesday, not remembering that it's $5 Tuesday, and then you pull up to the parking lot, you're like, what have I done? Because the parking lot's like crowded, the theater is all packed. Like if you go see a movie, I think there was a time I went to go see a movie, I can't remember what, on a Tuesday night with someone from work, and we went to go pick our tickets, and it was sold out. Like there was no available seats.
Jeez.
And we had to reschedule because it's like, well, there's no showings because they're all sold out. So yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I haven't had it too bad. It's just been like Tuesdays is when I go, and that's like it's moderate, but I'm out by 5.
No.
Usually, I'll do like a double feature, and then like I'll bounce if I do something on a Tuesday, and it kind of depends on like what my work schedule is, which I'm not saying like I kind of set my own hours with a lot of things, which is nice. So I will go like get like most of my big meetings done like Tuesday, knock them out, and then like I would do like early afternoon, go see some things.
Okay.
So, and it kind of depends, like I said, on workload, and then like I would work during the evening, but like I said, it depends. So let's talk about real quick, like in general, how some movies no one wants to see anymore, but yet everyone's complaining, but still going. So I'm talking mostly about like reboots and sequels. And I wish Caleb was here. Reboots, sequels, and Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So this has been something that I've seen a lot, and I heard a lot about it like when I was taking film classes. These are like the safe bets for things. Hollywood puts these out because it's like, okay, this is a name that's established, a brand that people know. They'll keep going. But it wasn't as common about a decade ago as it is now. Now it's like insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one thing that is kind of crazy is this year, the number one grossing Marvel movie so far, I guess, is a Marvel movie, which is Deadpool versus Wolverine, which is a sequel, and it's a Marvel movie, but also Joker, the second Joker movie is expected to drop this year. And the first Joker was the number one highest grossing.
Very successful.
Yeah, highest grossing movie of all time. And so will the second one, which is going to be a musical, do that again and also dethrone Deadpool versus Wolverine? I don't know, but it's just like something interesting to think about. Like this wasn't as common, but now a lot of movies that have come out is sequels, reboots, and established IPs or Marvel movies. Opening weekend, Furiosa and the Garfield movie.
Mm-hmm.
More prime examples.
Though, to be fair, to Hollywood, when we try new stuff, that's when you get stuff like Mortal Engines.
Wasn't that based on a book, though?
It might have been.
I thought that was based on a... Yeah, it was based on a book. So,
it is. It's based on a book.
Yeah, established
Man, even
IP.
then.
Like,
I'm just thinking...
library nerds.
Yeah. Read a book.
But when Hollywood takes their chances, every now and again they decide to take the chances, and the audience goes, I don't like this.
Well, I'm thinking...
And then they do the same thing again.
The Megalopolis movie, Merlin and Cameron, have you guys heard about this?
Mm-mm.
It's going to be appearing in movie theaters for one day only. And it's on September 23rd. I'm going to go see it. It's on a Monday, and I'm just going to go check it out and like see if it's good or not. It looks like it could be really good or really terrible.
I've never even heard of this one.
Yeah, I'll send you like some information about it like after. Have you
Got
seen
Adam
this,
Driver
Merlin?
in.
Yeah.
No, but I was about to say,
got some
It's
big
right.
names.
I was saying, like, we're speaking about reboots. Like, you could talk about The Crow if you want.
Man, I don't know if we're gonna touch on The Crow or Borderlands yet. We might, we may, we might not. I don't
Because the
know.
heat I've heard from that one is like fire.
The Crow's pretty bad from what I've
Yeah,
heard for
from what.
reboots.
Well,
Um,
for basically people are saying it's because Brandon Lee. Like, it did Brandon Lee wrong. Like, it's not
yeah,
delivering.
and like I'm not a big fan of The Crow in general, but like I've seen the first Crow and I've seen some of the sequels, and the sequels are terrible.
Yes.
So it's like, I'm not so much looking at this as a reboot. I'm like, did the world really need another The Crow movie? And I'm rolling with no.
No, the answer is no.
Yeah. So since we're talking trash about The Crow, let's talk about movie reviews. Let's talk movie reviews today.
Okay.
I've always hated Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I think Merlin's well aware of this.
I am.
But the past decade, they just rose in power and popularity, and I can't stand it. And also, I used to love IMDb, but now it's gone to crap. Amazon owns it, and everyone on their account, like everyone has an account on there, and they always have their superior opinion of a film review as a comment. And there are things that are just like, I didn't really dig this film, and there's no real reason. Like, this is what it takes to be a film critic these days. Not having your own podcast. But
Hit
one,
that like and subscribe button.
yeah,
Leave a comment
I am
down
so
below.
tired of these shameless plugs. Please tell your friends about this show. So we're on YouTube now. Gross. But I still have such mixed feelings about this. The only reason I wanted to be on YouTube is I wanted to like get like past that like 50,000 subscribers mark and have that YouTube trophy in the background, but have it
Yeah.
upside down like I don't care. But
Slower play button.
I'm not really enjoying being on YouTube. I mean, it's okay. We do better with the audio form podcasting, and I like that a lot more.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're still on.
We
like,
appreciate you, YouTube audience.
yes, we do appreciate you. Well, a couple of people were asking me, they're like, do I subscribe on like a Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher? Where do I subscribe? And I'm like, wherever you want to listen. I don't care. It's not like we're running ad revenue or getting anything. We're just kind of like, it's just like, the podcast is the same as it ever was. It's just going.
Yeah.
Anyway, but like, okay, YouTube reviews, I feel like specifically YouTube reviews are just rage bait these days. Like, they're super low effort and they're just desperate for views. And I'm not a fan of this. Also, I feel like this is a good time to plug. If anyone wants to hear about my special episode about the upcoming election and Donald Trump, that's going to be available on OnlyFans. So, yeah. I was
Nice.
hoping that joke would have landed
Nice.
better with the rage bait, but that did not. Maybe I'll edit that out. I'm gonna leave it in because I'm lazy, but it's just rage bait for a lot of things, and there are just so many YouTube channels that I'm seeing that get like recommended to me, and I can only like click like don't recommend this channel so often. But it's how wokeness has ruined movies and franchises, and that's their hill to die on. And I can like somewhat see their perspective on this, but when a movie is bad, it's not like for one reason it's bad.
Mhm.
It's a combination of reasons why it's bad. And it's usually like the script itself is bad, or the things went wrong with editing or the sound. There's a lot of factors.
No.
It's not just like this cast had diversity and the message was too woke for me. Like, that just doesn't seem like a good argument to me for why a movie sucks. And I'm seeing this a lot with these YouTube channels. One that's been more popular lately, this isn't a movie but a series, is The Acolyte.
Yeah.
With Star Wars. And I picture Cam just shaking his head for this, but like I'm seeing that a lot with The Acolyte. But from what I haven't actually seen The Acolyte, and I know there was a lot of controversy around this, which I'm gonna get into in a moment. But with the Acolyte, it sounded like the plot was just bad and it just didn't fit together really well from like what I've seen and read, and that's where people are having their actual biggest criticisms for it, which is unfortunate because like I kind of want to see Star Wars start doing well, but it just hasn't.
It
Well,
really
and
hasn't.
with that, no, that's what I was gonna say. I haven't watched the Acolyte, but I've seen a lot of clips and previews because a lot of people's like, watch this clip and you tell me what you think. And they show this little clip that they're talking about controversial wise, and then it goes back to them and be like, what was that? Like, what does that have to do with Star Wars? And it's true, and it's one of those. It's kind of like going off a tangent, like kind of a tangent kind of thing, where it's like, here's the plot, but then you go way off for just a random fact or just for the sake of it, and then you go back to the plot and you're like, what was that? Why do we need that? And
It's an insert your own character.
yeah, and it's kind of like how arguments have been with the newer Star Wars, because we've had our discussions about the newer Star Wars from the prequels, from the old originals, and then the new ones. And this is the same argument where it's all like, why? Like, what happened to our classic lightsaber fights, the Jedi versus the Sith Lord? What happened to all of that?
And I feel like that's
that?
yeah, and I feel like without seeing the Acolyte, but what I see in previews and everything, I feel like that's what the Acolyte tried to bring back, but just didn't deliver. And when I saw some of those, I've seen some of those clips, and like I just don't feel engaged or excited on those.
Exactly.
And I don't know if it's because we've seen them so many times before, and we want a little something that's a little bit different. I don't know. And for me, it's like I don't know how to fix Star Wars.
Exactly.
But one thing I do think is with Star Wars in general, I'm not to get too off topic, is I feel like that universe just got so big, and it was only really meant to be just within like a couple movies, like the original 3, and that was it. And then people are trying to expand it, and you put a magnifying glass on it, and the more you look, the deeper you look, the worse it gets.
It's true.
And I think that's kind of what happened with it.
I mean, the fan base exploded. You have books that are supposedly canon. You have video games that are supposedly canon. And then you have these miniseries that's supposedly canon. And then the universe just started imploding on itself, and you're like, okay.
And then one day those were all considered not canon.
Yep.
And then it was like it did its own reboot within itself. It was just like, what is happening?
There's
and then
too many cooks in the
Deadpool
kitchen.
jumped in and fixed everything.
What'd you say, Cam?
There's too many cooks in the kitchen because they let everyone have their own slice of Star Wars. You can make whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, and
Starts conflicting.
And I feel like Disney as a whole does that, like trying to give the nerds too much of what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a bad thing. Like when WandaVision came out, Agatha was a character in there, and they're like, with Agatha all along was like this really cute song musical thing, and Disney was like, "Hey everyone," and this reminds me of the Simpsons episode where they're trying to get information about like Itchy and Scratchy from kids, and so they're doing like test reviewing things, and they ask them like, how many of you would like Itchy and Scratchy to have like really grounded adventures? And they're like, oh yeah, I want that, yeah, and then they're like, okay, how many of you on the opposite end would like to have crazy adventures with space aliens and things like that? And they're like, yeah, I want that too. And they're like, so you want grounded adventures with crazy space aliens? and it was like a mix of both of those. And and it was like the target audience was not hit because it was going, if it's not for anybody, it's for nobody. If it's for everybody, it's for nobody. And that's what it did with this. And so Disney was like, hey, everybody, first mistake. How many of you would like to have Agatha all along as like its own series? Everyone's like, yeah, we'll take that. And so now it's coming out. And it was just like, because they asked the nerds, and the nerds were like, yeah, we'll watch that. And here we are. So,
that and the song.
End of song.
People like the song.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. I feel like giving the audience too much of what they wanted is becoming an issue, but besides the point. Moving back to, I guess, like YouTubers and wokeness, this does build controversy, which also allows, for the no bad press. So companies kind of allow this to go on. One thing I've seen this with a lot was like Captain Marvel. Everyone's got like Brie Larson just has a target on her back.
She kind of asks for it though. Let's be honest.
And in her interviews, she comes off very very kind of like, I don't know, overly confident, kind of cocky a little bit. So I can see both sides of it. I think Brie Larson, like, if I was to sit down and, like, I don't know, have dinner with her or something and have an evening hangout, I think she'd be pretty cool, to be honest.
So
But
did you see a recent review when Deadpool came out and how that's just plain jealousy, just flat out jealousy, because she was talking about like
I haven't
should-
seen it. I haven't
you
seen
need
this.
to
I don't know if I want to touch this though.
no, this is definitely a different show, a different time, but that's something you should definitely check out. Like it's basically her saying like you just can't make a movie and just throw violence and swear words and think it's gonna be a great movie. And
I
like
mean, they added in like the other thing is Deadpool versus Wolverine had a lot of other crazy things in there.
yes, but you could tell she was upset at the popularity he was getting because all of hers have bombed, and you could just see it like it was just triggered. It was like she was triggered about it. Like it's not.
Yeah, one thing that we talked about during Caleb's Marvelous Marvel rant was the need to have Captain Marvel pushed onto everybody, because
Yes.
it took place between both of the Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, and everyone's like, oh, Captain Marvel, she's going to have this huge role to play. And so the studios were like really pushing this. And then like I went and I saw Captain Marvel and I was like, it was kind of lackluster. It was a lot like every other Marvel movie. I think this is about the time people started to wake up to the Marvel movie format.
Yeah.
As well. And it just happened that like, hey, Brie Larson, you starred in this. It's what happened. Sorry. That's just the reality of it. And like, I just didn't enjoy it. And a lot of people didn't. And then it started being in this controversy. And I feel like Brie does feed into this a lot, which helps build publicity and controversy. But I don't like it personally. Because then it's just like giving these YouTubers more fuel for the fire. And it just never stops. And then this low effort content keeps happening.
You know that another thing with Brain, don't do this to me. Audiences, they lost because the Thanos story arc was coming to an end. People also use that as an opportunity to drop out of the fandom. They're like, all right, I've had enough of my investment in here. I'm good at this point, and that's when they left. And it's also when Marvel started doing their TV shows.
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of shifted to that point, and that's when a lot of the audience kind of just went, okay, we're gonna do our own thing.
And I mentioned this in the Caleb's Marvelous Marvel rant as well. I feel like the MCU was better left back in 2010s as well. Anyway, moving back to the criticisms from YouTubers as well, it's always coming back to these hills to die on about things. But I feel that a lot of these superhero movies, some of them have, especially superhero movies in general, for movie criticism, they can have things that are really good about them, but also really bad. So one superhero movie way before YouTube came out was Spawn. And Spawn had a killer soundtrack, great special effects for its time, won an award, but it had terrible acting and not a great plot. Black Adam, more recent movie. That movie had amazing cast. Everyone was an amazing actor in it, except The Rock, who was the main character. And I've mentioned this in a couple different shows. I'm not a Hawkman comic book fan, but damn, I'd watch Hawkman have his own movie if that was set up. I personally hate the movie Captain America Winter Soldier, but it had good actors. It had great setups and payoffs that were utilized within the film. And you know what? It actually had a really good soundtrack. So, I mean, but to have like one hill to die on, I don't really agree with. Which, I mean, and then this is my one hill to die on with these YouTube complaints, or I guess movie reviews as well, is I guess the real reason I hate them is the same reason I hate Christopher Nolan movies, which is they make dumb people feel smart. And And I don't want to call out like any specific YouTube channels on here, but I'm going to call out one. I'm going to call out CinemaSins.
Okay.
I've never been a fan of it, and I feel like this is something that it's kind of like low effort content to me. And I have a couple reasons why. But one of it is like it will take things that are like, oh, this is a plot hole, this is an issue, and they're naming things incorrectly. And so then everyone starts thinking like, oh, this is what a plot hole is. This is what an issue with the theme is, etc. And so I saw a comment on Reddit as well for this, talking about CinemaSins, and this was from someone named String King 456. I hate quoting Reddit as a source, but this was a really good quote, and I feel this is like very well justified here. So in college, I kind of enjoyed these videos because I thought they were funny, tongue-in-cheek videos, self-aware, and obviously not taking themselves too seriously. And I assume people watching them thought the same. Then I started to realize that every other person I know watched these videos was a pretentious ass who thought they were a legit movie critic worth listening to. And then I realized that this dude and his fan base are irritating as hell. And that's kind of what I realized over the years, like someone who was like really involved in film. And like when I would mention, like I was studying film in school, people would bring up like these YouTube movie critics. And if I mentioned I didn't agree with any of this stuff, instantly they just like tried to fight me. I think part of it was also like Provo, Utah's just like combative. If you disagree or push against the norm there, people want to fight, but I just felt it was way worse. Like with film, like everyone just had like their super great opinion, not backed up by any like study or anything like that. So one other thing I always kind of wanted to say with these to these types of people as well is when they have like these like these opinions, I always want to say, which YouTube critic did you pull that from? So I don't want to get too much into the YouTube critics. I kind of want to move on, wrap some of this up too. I will say Ryan George's pitch meetings, I do love those personally.
Agreed.
Those are always on point, very good, very funny, humorous, and just something that are enjoyable. But the YouTube focused reviews, they're focused on things that's always character arcs too. Character arcs aren't really a thing. They're basic elements of like story, like plot, setting, theme, conflict, character, not character arcs. This is just me nitpicking at this point. But I don't know what YouTuber popularizes, but character arcs just became like this big thing. And I would hear about it constantly. And people would get upset if someone didn't get a full character arc, like a character died on Game of Thrones. And they're like, well, they didn't get like a redemption arc. It's like not everyone deserves a quote subplot for this. Tone is another thing that like I don't think it's touched on much anymore. Like the meaning of the story, as well as like is it happy, funny, depressing, sad, symbolism, stuff like that. And then plot holes are like the big thing now. Like in fiction, a plot hole is a gap or an inconsistency with the storyline. And now everyone's turned it into something that they disagree with or is illogical based on what is reality, not what is reality within the film. And then people getting upset about lore within the film or canon. That's a big one too. It kind of just like upsets me. Plus, another thing about like a lot of these reviews is they are filled with spoilers, which we are bringing back the At the Movies like podcast section, and pretty excited about this. But we're going to start having like spoiler tags in a certain point, and that way people can just go to a timestamp where all the spoilers are gone, and they can hear like, okay, here's what we think about the film, whether it's like worth seeing or not. But with the At the Movies coming back, this is going to be our last thing that we're going to close on as well. We came up with a new way to talk about movies, if they're good or not. And this is something I found an article on a website called theharddrive.net by Matt Fresh. And it was also something that was trending on Twitter back in 2023. And it was called Pick a Movie, keep one actor. The rest are played by Muppets. And so our good way of gauging if a movie is good or not is going to be from now on, at the end, would this make a great Muppet remake? And
I love that metric.
I think it's a good metric. We're going to start real quick. We're going to take a couple minutes and just go through one and then close out the show. Is Die Hard. I found this as a great Reddit thread, and a good tagline for this would be Yippee-ki-yay, Muppet Fluffer. And so, going through this, who we would have, since we're keeping one actor, the original actor, this is going to be really sad, but Hans Gruber could only be played by Alan Rickman. There's just no way it could be anyone else. John McClane, obviously Kermit. Miss Piggy is obviously going to be Holly Gennaro McClane. The cop, Sergeant Al Powell, Fozzie Bear. And then we start getting into like all the thugs, and they're kind of just various Muppets, Gonzo, Rizzo, Sam the Eagle, Beaker, Animal. And then the special agents in there would be Stantler and Walter. I feel this is a solid casting. And reasons why this version would be superior is, one, the humor and charm of the Muppets. And also this would give us a PG rating. So a PG Die Hard Muppet movie, I think, is going to be amazing. But also the enhanced performances and then musical numbers. So I think it would add just a delightful twist to the film. And then we could like revamp the storyline a little bit and incorporate some, Muppets breaking the fourth wall a little bit, which I think would be really good. Like where John McClane says the line, oh, come on down to California. We'll have some drinks, go to the beach, have some laughs. We have Kermit doing that, looking straight out, talking to the audience. I think that would just be cream of the crop right there. So
I'm just imagining you mentioned musical numbers, and I'm imagining the scene where the character Harry Ellis, he's the dude who's high, who's at the Christmas party.
Okay, yeah.
He's trying to pitch an idea to Hans Gruber about how to get him, get everyone happy. And I'm just imagining a musical number of him doing all these ideas of like, oh, we're gonna do this, and just ends with him getting shot.
Oh, I figured where they were gonna have a musical number for this, it's gonna be like right when they get like the vault open type of thing. Okay. Or where the chair comes down and then it says, ho ho ho, now I have a machine gun. Like right there, that there's a musical number just waiting to be written. Mm-hmm. Danny Elfman, if you're listening.
I'm also imagining with Statler and Waldorf, excuse me, as the agents. I'm imagining now Kermit in those quieter scenes where he's like in the bathroom or whatever, and he's talking with Sergeant Al, and like the agents come in and start making comments like, hey, who the heck are you? Get Sergeant Al back on here. I'm just imagining Statler and Waldorf making some cracky jokes like, oh, who's this guy?
I mean, there's so much that can be done with this. It would be great. So, releasing right around Christmas time, too.
It is the best Christmas movie.
It's one of my favorite Christmas movies, that's for sure. All right. Anyway, that's our show. I want to thank Cameron and Merlin for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, anytime. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the MCS1 show. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. All voices on the show are not AI generated, celebrity voices are impersonated, and no droids were harmed during the production of this show. For more information about the show notes and links, head over to the MCS1show.com or search AOL keyword MCS1.